am live with Jennifer Maher on the Positive People Show. My gorgeous friend, I'm so excited to see you. Woo! This is just going to be such a fun chat. I've got my coffee.
Good woman.
I've got my water. I've got my water too, and I'm just so excited to be on here with you today, my gorgeous friend. I'm going to take off my glasses now So just before we start, I just want to let everybody know I am Denise Devlin from Positive Parties Training with a Difference. If anybody who's watching who doesn't know me, and I'm the CEO and founder of the training company Positive Parties, and we deliver workshops, programs, and seminars delivering fun programs, and we use NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, and positive psychology. And what we do is we make these workshops fun. It's like in a party style environment. We do them in corporates and schools and communities. And during the whole past year, we've been doing them online with our Access Your Positivity Palette, but we're dying to get out there again. So that's it. And we're in Germany as well, and we're looking for new licensees to come on board. So that's me. Jennifer, over to you. Just a bit of a background about our friendship. I met you on the wonderful We Can and We Will group with Amanda Delaney, and we built up a friendship there. I think we both, it was the wackiness between us both, wasn't it?
It was definitely the fun. We definitely connected through fun, for sure.
There was that. We were doing our videos, the challenge that Amanda had about doing videos, and we were doing those, and then you and I just clicked, and we just started meeting up and having wee chats online, and then we met in person with our wonderful mutual friend Joe Dalton. He had Change Your Mind, Change Your Life, and I was delivering a positive party session at it. And when you came in and came up and hugged me, I'll just never forget it, because it was like I felt as if I'd known you all my life. So that was it.
For sure.
It has just gone from that, and we have loads of synchronicities and signs and things that happen between us, and it's just great. And I just feel as if, soul sister, I know you a lifetime. So
same.
So if people are listening, there'll be people who are watching the Positive People Show that know you, but there will be people that are watching that don't know you. So do you want to give a bit of a background about yourself? You are a mom of two gorgeous kids. You're a wife, you're a sister, you're an auntie, and you are a qualified coach, trainer, and facilitator, right? But you weren't always that. Well, you were a trainer, but you did have the corporate lifestyle, which you loved. But then when your family came along, you felt that it was too much. And this is where you made this big shift, and you transitioned into now what you're doing and what you love, and you're helping so many women make that shift of the balance of that corporate life and on the grindstone, and you are helping them fill their potential in their life and just do what you do best. So find your buzz. That's your catch line.
Yeah, finding your buzz. And thanks. Isn't it amazing when you say all the different hats? And I'm certainly not unique. All the women that I work with all wear very similar hats, and it's, yourself, Denise, when you've got smallies, it's a bit of a juggle. And I think something happens actually. Something certainly happened me, most definitely after I had Mary Kate, who's going to be 5, where I was really in this place of re-evaluating, and while I had been in the bank for almost 20 years, and I loved my time there. I loved so many of the jobs that I did. I have amazing friends, so much learning, so much rich learning, so many scars and wounds from all the different changes and transformations and restructures that the corporate world goes through. But there was definitely a waking up in me, kind of saying, really? Is this all that there is? Is this what life is? Sitting in traffic, packing bags, shipping the kids off here and there, not having quality time with them. And at the same time as Mary Kate was small, Tom started school. So
Right.
I think that also brings a kind of a new dynamic. It brings like, I mean, the mom guilt is a killer, isn't it? Like,
Totally.
you know, and to be able to, you know, to be able to bring him to school and to be able to pick him up. And I think there's this kind of conundrum that women end up in. It's like, okay, they have to step away from their job and then suddenly they're just at home. And it's like, we have to choose. And I was like, this just doesn't feel right either. But I knew deep down that I wanted more. I wanted more fulfillment. And I wanted more balance as well.
So what was that pivotal point that you said, right, I'm not doing this anymore? Was it one day you looked in the back of the car and saw them? Because I know that a friend of mine, that happened to her once. She looked in the back of the car, her little kid was sitting there with like big eyes, and she thought she could see into the child's soul, and she just felt, if I keep dropping her off at 8 and picking her up at 6, I'm going to lose this relationship I have with my daughter. And she changed, her life changed from then, and she gave up the corporate job, and she just took a change around in her life and went back and did training and studying and became a counsellor and does amazing work now, my friend Tanya. But that was her pivotal moment. So did that happen to you?
Oh, definitely. And I think there is, and I think there's definitely like a catalyst, I think. And when I look back at my catalyst, there was like this kind of series of very big events that happened in a very short space of time, all coinciding with, you know, a pivotal moment for Tom starting school, Mary Kate coming into our family. You know, I had a little girl. I always wanted to have a little girl. And suddenly, you know, I see myself in this little girl and thinking, hang on a second, you know, I have to set a really good example. I have to show them here what is acceptable and what's not. And a year before Mary Kate came along, I experienced a miscarriage. And I talk about this quite a lot. I'm very open about it. Because it was probably the first big kind of adversity that hit me. And it was typical at 35. You know, I always had this thing when I was a teenager that, you know, you have this midlife crisis when you're 35 because you're halfway through life. But bang smack for me, 35, it was the adversity hit me. And, you know, it's not really spoken about, miscarriage, and it's a huge adversity that so many women, it's only when you kind of talk about it, you know, in your kind of your safe spaces that you realize that, oh, you had one too. Oh my goodness, you know. So there was definitely a shift in me that came in that process. And I remember just seeing the world then with very different eyes because of that experience. So then I think then when Mary Kate came along the year after, literally nearly a year to the day, and you know, we know there's no coincidences there, you know, for sure.
Of course.
She was meant to be my daughter for sure. She's my biggest teacher and my biggest tester on this earth, hands down. But she's amazing, and she's an amazing fighting spirit as well, which I never ever want her to change that. Just trying to rear it is a little bit tricky sometimes. But then, you know, Mary Kate was a small baby. I was on maternity leave. Tom was after starting school, and I was reevaluating, kind of going, do I really want to go back to the bank? How am I going to make all this work? How am I going to fit this all in? And as women, we do. Like, I knew I would. I knew I could make it work. I knew together in this house, like me and Brian would make it work. But there was something off in me. And then literally before I went back from maternity leave, Brian lost his brother, and I lost a good friend from work as well, who had a very short battle with cancer, left 2 small kids at home. And that really kind of cemented for me, okay, come on now, this is not a dress rehearsal. So I guess that was the pivotal moment. And there's been more adversity that's come along. But as I say, everything happens, everything is an experience. What is it here to teach me? Why is this happening for me? So
And yeah, I know I experienced a miscarriage myself when I was 40. And as you said, it was a time where, you know, and I already had the 2 girls at the time. And I remember thinking, if someone had had a miscarriage, but they'd already had children, my mind was like, yes, that's really sad, but they already have children. I didn't realize the pain of losing, like, you know, my little baby at 10 weeks would have had on me. It had a huge impact. And it really took me, it took me about 2 years to really to move on, you know. But yeah, so I think that's something now that, as you said, that was part of your story, your journey, that the healing. And then when Mary Kate came along, you know, and then those also, so sorry, those other adversities that happened, you know, you lost your brother-in-law, you lost your, you know, your friend. But these are the things that it's part of our journey that makes us sit back and go, right, okay, where my heart and my soul do I want to go on with my life now?
And I guess it was really, looking, I didn't have the language around it then. But probably for the first time when I made the decision to leave the bank, I went back for 6 months, and you know, I had great success even in those 6 months. I was like determined I was going to leave on a high, and great, you know, I was working on some really exciting projects and stuff as well. But you know, it was definitely the first time that I kind of dropped out of the headspace and really kind of tuned into what my gut and my heart were telling me. Because we can be so overwritten, especially in the corporate world where it's so, you know, I think that's changing now. I think it's slowly changing in terms of, I think COVID has been a massive shake-up for these linear, you know, career type roles that, you know, when you kind of take a step back, it's quite stuffy, and it's quite regimental, and it's quite strict in terms of how how the days are set up. They're not really set up in terms of women. You know, they've been set up kind of in the patriarchal way of you know, of how men operate, which is well and good. There was a place and time for that, but I think as women have evolved and women have realized that they want to have kind of, you know, they want to have both in balance and in harmony. You know, I think there's a gradual, very slow, gradual change, and I think COVID has helped accelerate that as well. Where people are kind of, you know, expecting now flexibility. They're, you know, expecting the kind of the working from home and the staggered late start to drop the kids to school, and you know, to bring kind of more balance and more equality as well.
And putting that structure in your life, that the structure that suits you. Because I know I've talked to you before, and you like get the kids to schools, and then you come back and you'll do your walk, and then you'll have your shower, and then you'll start your day, you know, maybe at 10, your coaching calls, and you're very good with your boundaries. I have my coaching for this time, I see my clients, then I pick up the kids. Then I have, and as we all know, with young kids, like I have teenagers now, the girls are like 15 and 18, but I remember what it was like, Jennifer, when the kids were little. And, you know, because we had a chat one day, and I remember Mary Kate, you had done something, and we just popped on a call, but they wanted you out the trampoline. And there was no stopping them. And they're like, come on, mom, now, come on. They were saying hello to me, but they were, come on, come on, come on. And and you were like, and I was like, I totally understand what this is like, because they just want your attention. And, you know, it's kind of the opposite now. You're saying you coming out of your room, or you do this. It's like we're at the other end.
And you want that back. And it's like every phase of them, it's like, you know, you don't realize where one phase stops and the other starts. So you're already, you know, you're already in the next phase before you realize the other one is gone. And like, I mean, the days are long with kids, aren't they? But like, God, the years go so fast.
They go so quickly, so quick. But there's a funny story I have about Orla. I remember, do you know Fiona Harold, the life coach?
Oh yeah,
She was one of the first life coaches that I really started reading her stuff, and that was like, I don't know, 2000, and when I started my life coaching, I can't remember. It was when Orla was a baby. Orla was 2005, something. I'd started my life coaching journey, and And then when Orla, I remember then doing this call once with Fiona Harold, and it was before, you know, conference calls, things like this. So it was a phone call, and we were all on the phone call having this call with her, and somebody was telling some of their experiences, what are they doing, and it was my turn to speak. So this was kind of like, you're talking a way back, 12 years ago. So I'm talking about, and the kids were outside my office, and they were having like an argument about something, and they were screaming, "Mommy, she's doing this, she's doing that," and I was next to talk. So I was standing with my back up against the door like that, and they were banging the door, and I was talking, and there was people all over the world listening to me talking. Oh my goodness, it was just. And Neil was downstairs, and he had something on, and he wasn't really, because he wanted me. And then there was another time when I was on the phone to a principal, and Orla was shouting, "Mommy, clean my bum." She doesn't.
Oh yeah, I've had that. I actually had that on a live one time where, do you know, so like, I think that's what, like, that's real, like, that's life, and
Yeah.
COVID has made that acceptable, you know.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, it's made it acceptable because every parent gets that, and yet, you know, we're trying to go into these kind of straitjacket roles and pretend we're not parents, and then we're at home, we're pretending we don't have a job. It's like, okay, you know. So I totally get that, but I think there's been a gentleness and a more, I think the Sky News guy, you know, where his toddler, I mean, I think he made that, you know, he made that acceptable. He paved the way for every parent in during the pandemic, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's even like with dogs and cats, you see coming in as well and walking over the place, or, you know, walking over the computer, or, you know, the dog barking, and you say, hold on, in the middle of, like, I was doing a positive power station for First Source recently, and they were like from Philippines, the States, you know, and I think at one stage I had to run out and let the dog out, you know, he was barking.
Yeah, but sure, the dog needed you. It's like when Tom was a baby, I used to take him to baby cinema, and oh, it was great. It was actually great because, you know, like when your first baby is so small and you're trying to kind of find yourself in there. Where am I gone? Yeah. And a friend of mine said, "Come on to baby cinema, and you get a nice hot cup of tea handed to you. You put your baby in the car seat beside you on the seat, and, you know, they'll put on a movie that's in, and like the thing, I mean, for us, we used to go to the movies before kids all the time. And then as soon as kids came along, then there was, you know, it was the thing that got dropped, you know. And so to get to see a film that was out, you know, that was currently in the cinema was class. So we'd be sitting there, but like, no, there was a couple of dads there. It was mainly moms, but nobody would bat an eyelid for another child's crying. Yes. It was only when your own child, right? And it's like, you know, it's only us that really feels the pressure of our kid, you know, the heat when their kids are having us up against the door or whatever. But yeah, and like most of the time the kids were so good, but like if your baby cried, you'd be like, oh my God, nobody can hear the film. But actually everybody was still glued to it because they were just so happy to have their hot cuppa and watching the films, you know. So
oh, brilliant. Yeah, there has to be more things like that. So tell us a bit now what you do with your clients. So if your ideal client really is you work with women mostly, and it is a woman who has been in your shoes, that has been in that place that is like, I've, you know, enjoyed my corporate career, I've enjoyed my corporate life, but it's got to a stage now I need a change. But there's that fear that they don't want to take that step. They don't want to give up, you know, the security, the pension, just everything. There's such fear, isn't there, with taking that leap? So huge. How do you work with the clients then? Do you get them before they've made the step, or after, or where do they come in touch with you, Jenny? And also, you forgot to say the name of your company.
Yeah, so it's BeGeal Training and Coaching. So Geal is the Irish word for bright. And my little bee as well, which I'm very famous for. I haven't got my bee socks on today, but there's bee stuff all over this house. But the bee was really important to me in my logo, and for a few reasons. But when I found out what the kind of the spiritual meaning of a bee is actually brightness, connection to community and personal power. So that's really what I help kind of unlock in the women that I work with. And they can come, they usually come to me when they're kind of making a decision about redundancy. That's a huge kind of where women are kind of, you know, on the sidelines. Will I jump? Will I go? Will I stay? And it's and you said there, you know, they've been in my shoes. Well, I would always kind of look at that they're in their shoes. So because their journey is going to be very different, you know, where they end, because we're all in different shoes. But you know, ultimately their time with the idea, and it's kind of entered into their, you know, their awareness, because there's obviously something that's drawn them. They want more. They want, you know, they want to help other people. They want the fulfillment, and they also want that kind of freedom and authority in the work that they're doing. You know, because we see in corporates all the time, you know, there's good and there's bad leadership, and you know, especially when women have been in a role in an organization, they may have moved roles several times, but when they've been in an organization for quite some time, they tend to see, you know, such a mixture of leadership, and they'll have great memories of really good managers and bosses, and then, you know, there'll be a shake up and strategy might change, and, you know, and suddenly they're kind of in a position where they're saying, well, that's not how we used to do it. And it's kind of like, that's for me is kind of the telling. It's a telling that it's time for them to move on. It doesn't mean the organization is going, it's just going in a different direction to what they've been used to. They've outgrown the organization. And I just help them realize that they will be safe, they will be fine on the other side, but they need to unlock that confidence in themselves first of all. And we do that by really kind of looking at their strengths, their skills, their experience, and how they can be transferred. Because, you know, we think when we're in organizations for a very long time that, you know, we become this kind of jack of all trades and a master of none. But actually that experience is, you know, is so worthy, and, you know, those skills are needed, whether it's setting up your own business. There's so many mompreneurs out there starting up that have, you know, that have been, you know, they've set up during the pandemic. And, you know, those skills, the skills and experience that they have can be used to greater, you know, for a greater cause.
Of course. And do you know what I loved? You were doing this coaching session with me, and this was brilliant. And then I wrote it all out in the flip chart afterwards. It was my homework from Jen's coaching. And you said to me, Denise, we need to take out your brag bag. And I was like, well, what? And you were like, your brag bag. And I'm like, all right, okay. It was my strengths and all my accomplishments and everything. And when I started listing them out, some of them, and you know, the way we have to dig deep ourselves about things, there was things I'd forgotten about. And there was you that said to me, what about your book? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'd even forgotten, you know, like I'd written a child and published a book. So, you know, and it was just great because you were able to say, right, and more and go deeper. And then it was like, it's that thing, I think it's I know it's an Irish thing, or, you know, the rest of the UK and all as well. It's like, you don't brag, you know, that seemed to be boastful, keep it down, don't be showing off, you know. And you would have been told that as a kid. You would have seen somebody else and been, oh, look at them, they're a big show off, who do they think they are? So we've been conditioned not to brag, not to tell people our stuff. And I know that sometimes I myself would even hold back and things like that. Like, I got amazing testimonials for accessing your positivity palette, and I thought, oh well, I put those up, and I thought, no, I'm not bothered. People want to look at testimonials and see how good. They'll go on LinkedIn or they'll go and find it. So, you know, you hold back because you don't want to be seen as a big show off. Who does she think she is? So that really is conditioning within us, isn't it? So do you want to say a bit more about that? Because I think that's an amazing tool. We really have to bring out our brag bag and tell people what we do, because how else is anybody else going to know?
Yeah, and for sure. And you know, there's been so many studies on this, that when men will actually apply for a role when they're 60% ready. And I do think it's an Irish, but it's also a very female thing, and this is right across the world, that women actually hold back they will only apply for a role if they're about 100% ready, or maybe even 120% ready. And I know certainly for me, when I was applying for side words or promotions in the bank, I would have always had to literally be like, you know, really very sure that I, you know, that I was able to do it. It's that integrity that, can I do it? And so much of a role can be learned. It's, you know, so, but that self-promotion or the brag bag or your success bank is so vital. It's so vital because as humans, we have a negativity bias. So we'll always try, and that's just in our, you know, that's just in the primitive part of our brain that keeps us safe, you know, that had a function that works, you know, to keep us safe. If there's, you know, if we were in a cave and there was a bear outside, but it's going to always tell us the story of you can't do that, or you know, don't do that, don't say that. You're going to sound like, you know, we all heard those things, and you know, thankfully the language and stuff has changed and moved on. But you know, I certainly heard it, or I certainly perceived it, I should say, because I know it certainly wasn't my parents' intention to say, don't talk yourself up, because they would be talking us up. But it's how we're perceived, you know, oh, they love themselves, you know, if they were a bar of chocolate, they'd eat themselves. And, you know, this kind of thing that it's like, well, don't show off, don't be cocky, don't promote. But, you know, that's how we actually get our message out. And if we're clear on the intention as to why we're doing it, and something that I think always helps women to really self-promote is actually, we need to see it to be it, okay? So if other women see us doing it, then we will break that stereotype. We will break that gender norm. One woman, one brag bag at a time. And it's okay. It's okay to say how great you are. If you do it in an authentic and inspirational way, that's okay. Say it.
I know. So would you find that part of your coaching program then is really looking at self-esteem and confidence, is getting your clients to come and really believe in themselves? Is that the core essence of what you do?
Only 1,000,000%.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's what keeps us safe and keeps us stuck, is that belief in ourselves. Because, you know, we're either going to be driven by fear, or we're going to be driven by love or joy or a positive emotion. So if we can understand what the driving force is behind us, and it is confidence, and it's that ability to take a brave step, because look, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, you know, and if it was easy, you'd have already done it. So when, of course, you know, when the women come to me for help, the confidence is huge. But I always, you know, a great question that I always nearly use in every session is, where's the evidence? You know, when I hear I couldn't do that, or I wouldn't be able to speak, or I wouldn't be able to stand up. Well, where is the evidence? And you might have evidence of when you've done it and you've forgotten.
Totally.
Or the story that you're telling yourself is actually just not true.
Yeah, it's a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's that thing too, moving out of your comfort zone. If you've been in a job that's secure, that's steady, you know what, you go in, you can do it like with your eyes closed, standing on your head. It's that moving out then, moving into self-employment and going to the networking events and reaching out to people and telling people this is what I'm doing now. And I know it could be so scary. I actually was just thinking, it's 11 years ago on the 25th of May that I delivered my very first positive party. And it was on the 26th. I thought, oh yes, it was the 25th, and to the Pink Ladies Breast Cancer Support Group. But I remember before that going to a Woman in Enterprise big event, and people saying, we have to move out of our comfort zones, we have to take risks, we have to do something new. And they said, does anybody want to speak? And I remember sitting at a table, and it's hard to believe, probably for you, Jenny, to believe this, but I actually didn't stand up in front of it. There was maybe about like 200 people there, and it was in the Everglades in Derry. And I didn't stand up I remember I kind of like stood with kind of my back around the other way. I stood up, but I didn't stand up to the whole place because the table were round tables up in the front. I stood with my back and kind of my head down. I says, do you know what? I've set up a business called Positive Parties Training with a Difference, and I said I'm delivering my first one next week. And you know, a few years ago I had postnatal depression, and I was even too scared to kind of like walk down my own main street in my town, and now this divine inspiration came for me and I'm doing it, and everybody, just all these women just started cheering and clapping, and I just thought, oh my goodness, they are all so supportive and so behind me. And it was just that, I think, being with other women, I was just, this woman in enterprise was what carried me through that, starting my own business, setting up Positive Parties, just going out there. And it was through the networks that then that first Positive Party I delivered, there was one of the women in enterprise, Tony Forrester, she's the president of Letterkenny Chamber. She was there. She told one of her friends, Juliet Barber, who's a teacher at St. Celia's College. They thought, oh, we could do that for, you know, our school. Then they got me into the school, and it was that knock-on effect. But it was the networking. It was like being with like-minded women, and women who'd been maybe in business for quite a few years, and they were there to take your hand and to say, right, okay, come with us, we can help you. Which is amazing. And you've done. Yeah, you're in Lean In, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was really, Lean In was a huge support to me when I left the bank. I remember going to the first networking event probably about 4 months after I'd left, and I remember, you know, when you have to kind of do the intro, the 60-second intro, and go around and kind of do the speed dating thing. And I remember doing and I was kind of like, who am I? I've no job title. And this before I even started, you know, decided I was going to retrain and set up the business. And you kind of I felt really exposed and really naked, but actually all I was greeted with was just such warmth.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like being in business can be, it can be a lonely journey if you're not with a network, if you're not, and the importance of, because, you know, we absolutely adore our friends and our family, but if they're not in a similar situation of being in business, or understand what we're doing, then they might not get it, and they'll never intentionally say something bad, but it's just your confidence can get knocked when you're setting up and starting out. So it's so important to be around an encouraging tribe. You know, I only said that this morning to somebody. You know, your vibe really does attract your tribe.
Totally.
You know,
and that's where you make the contacts, and you know, you build friendships. Like when I started Woman Enterprise, there was like 3 other of the girls. There was Julie, there was Patricia, and there was Helen, and we all started together. And then, like, I think it was about a year later, we were on the management committee, and we were kind of on the board, and it was just amazing. And I'm still, we call ourselves the original Fab Four.
Oh, isn't that fab?
Yeah, and you know, and they came to my launch, and I just watched them all grow and blossom throughout the years as well. And even then, when I took a bit of a step back from Positive Parties, when, you know, the book The Untold Story came in, they were all there just still supporting me and coming to my book launch. And you know, so to have those women, those contacts to just cheer you on, and everybody's been there, everybody's made that, you know, because you don't, you know, well, I don't know nowadays, do people go straight? Some people do, but most of us have had some kind of career background first. Like yours was in the bank, mine was in community development and education, and then we take that step and we move into becoming entrepreneurs and setting up our own business. And then that whole balancing, you know, business with family, and then doing our own self-care and spiritual practices in between. So tell us a bit about your self-care and your spiritual practice, because I know you're really good at that.
Yeah, and I think, and look, it's a fine art, and it's been built over, you know, very small incremental steps. But for me, like, you know, And I think it's always 80-20. Okay, so you know, for me, if I don't do something in a day, then that's okay. It doesn't mean the whole week is round or the whole month is round. And before, I probably would have spiraled into that kind of negative self-talk and just kind of given up. Whereas now I kind of understand the science behind how good positive habits are formed, because I use it and help women so much to do that. Because we're not going to change overnight. We're not going to change something. It has to be built up. It has to be realistic. My own self-care is, you know, good food, good sleep, exercise, most definitely 6 out of 7 days a week, getting into nature. I mean, even this morning, I was like, I have to get into the forest. I have to get into the forest. I have to see the streams. I have to see the trees. And then I remember I can't do that because I've designed this life around, you know, I've designed it with the kids in mind. But you know, that's that I think to have a good self-care, you have to have really strong boundaries in place, and nothing or anybody else or anything else. Yes, curveballs will hit. You might get a call to go and pick one of the kids up, or, you know, touch wood. But you know, things will happen, and it's that acceptance. The quicker you can move into acceptance. But if you have those kind of foundations of a good self-care practice in place, and that's it's just all helps the balance, because I know that if I don't do my walk, then that's going to impact on the quality and the outputs of my work that I do. It's also going to have an impact on how I am with the kids. So it's not actually ever selfish to have a self-care routine, because what it actually enables you to do, well, not even to do, but is to be you enable yourself to be how you want to feel, if that makes sense. So it's really for me, it's really about that presence to self, and being at home, being at home in me, because that's where I've read that in your book, if we don't go within, we'll go without. So so it all starts with what's on the inside, and the rest on the outside will take care of itself.
Of course. And it's that trust as well, isn't it? It's total trust. And trust as well, that we said, you remember I pulled this card before we come on today, divine timing.
Oh, listen, everything in divine timing, for sure.
And what was it, the card you got as well?
I got a lovely card that I pulled from my deck here, and it was, I slow down and listen to the guidance that's available to me. I thought that was fab.
It's so true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know what? Sorry, and I think it's so important to do that, because sometimes when we get into our heads, we can be, I have to do, and it's about stepping back and just know, like yesterday, I went out for the most beautiful, it was such a beautiful evening, but I hadn't got my walk done in the morning because my aunt and uncle were over from England and we'd gone out for lunch. So I went for my walk, and then on the way round, we have a lovely neighbour, Orla, and she, we'd given them one for, remember we had the 10 kittens last year?
Oh
yeah. We took 2 sets of kittens, like 3 weeks after each other during lockdown, and her knee was cracking up. And anyway, so we had 12 cats, and we'd given them one of the kittens. So one of the kittens now has had kittens. So I just stopped, and I was just going past her house, and I knocked the door, and I thought, right, I'll just pop in and see how the kittens are. So I wasn't going to see them just because they were too little yet to kind of go, and they're only 4 days old. So she came out and she sat on the step, and I stepped, and we kind of caught up. And we must have sat for an hour just talking. And with what I was saying I was doing at the minute, and what she's doing, she's got a degree in health and well-being, and there's just some amazing stuff that she has that I was like, oh my goodness, I need to put you in touch with, contact like Sinead Walsh for the Informed Minds. And then she was saying, well, there's some contacts I have that just really need what you do now, because we need to bring health and well-being into organizations, but we need to be discreet about it and not do it as a big heavy. It has to be done in a fun way. So with just going out for that walk and saying, I'll just pop in and knock the door and see how Orla is, so many things opened up.
Yeah,
and that's what it's about. It's just being in the moment, saying, and you were guided to just pop in, because it's not every day I would just pop and knock the door and say hello, and it was amazing. So rather, and you could sit down with a list and say, oh, I'll do some calls here, but that opened up so much more. And if there's anything that you see when signs like that happen, I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like we forget the you know, how nice is it now to be able to sit and see your neighbor, like to talk. I think we value that, like that connection, while you know everything starts and ends with ourselves, and you know, and that safety in us, and how present we are to ourselves. But the importance of human connection, and how we all have that new level of appreciation of it now, after the year, or it's longer than a year now that it's been, because that's what we're wired for. We're wired to be able to create and to collaborate, and that's the best wins. I mean, you know, some of the best collaborations I've had with are people that outsiders would maybe class as my competition, but actually there's no competition. When you're comfortable in your own skin, there's no competition.
Totally. That's amazing. And you know what, you put up a beautiful post the other day, and I have it here. I've had it, been saying it at the bottom of at the end of every positive party ever since for 11 years. And I have it written in this here, right down beside my computer. Rumi, the 13th century poet, says, you were born with potential, you were born with ideals and dreams. You were not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings, learn to use them and fly. That's how. And
you know, I heard that in your positive party last year, in Joe's amazing day. Actually, that was a brilliant day. And when you put the picture up earlier on, I was like, oh, I so missed, you know, in-person events.
Yeah, I know.
But I was reminded of that quote there recently. I was finishing one of Wayne Dyer's one of his books. It's the very last thing the very last few lines in it, wishes fulfilled. Fab book. But it's so true. We are not meant to be here standing still, you know, stuck in the jobs that are just not lighting us up. We're meant to do amazing work here. And our only job is to be happy. So if we're not happy, happy.
I know, I love your time.
That's complete fluke. If you're not happy, then what is the point?
I know. It's to be in that joy, isn't it? It's to be joyful. Every day is to be joy. And I know, we know there's ups and downs and there's bumps. And it's a roller coaster. Like,
for sure.
There's days like you're thinking, what am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm sure there's times along the way you thought, oh, flip, should I have stayed in the bank? And then you're going, of course I shouldn't, you know, or there's times along my positive party journey, I was like, oh my goodness, sometimes would it be easier to go and just do a job and come home again? But I know, because I would be dying inside if I did that, because I need that spontaneity, the creativity, the freedom to flourish, to bloom. And like, you're the same. And there's so many out there that really would like to take that leap. And it's just about, you know, taking that step. Like, you know, my husband Neil has taken that now at 60.
Yes. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's remembering that it's not all going to be unicorns and, you know, magic, and it's not all going to be plain sailing. And when you kind of accept that and say, you know, I can't get it wrong. You know, when you were saying about those highs and lows, one of the things I do in one of my workshops is I get people to remember one of their most happiest moments, right? And then I get them to think about a time maybe that challenged them, you know, it might have been a bereavement or a job loss or something that kind of hit them hard, and give both a rating, okay? And then what we do is we get the collective, we get everybody to plot them. So what we just see straight away is the ups, the downs, and then we join the line. And what it actually looks like is, you know, a life support machine, that heart monitor. So if it's a flat line, we're dead. So it's going to be up and down, but when you accept that there's going to be ups and downs, you can move through it.
Totally. That's amazing, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
And sometimes when you go back to those there and you see where you were at that bit, there was something. Sometimes when you're at that flat bit, you know, when you're down, you know that there's something amazing to come. You're just on the brink, you know. And sometimes that could even be there's going to be a quantum leap, but there's always like the wobbly bit beforehand, but you know that something amazing is arising. I am quite aware that Mary Kate has picked up this skill now.
Yeah, she'll be waiting. She'll be like this with her, you know, come on, mommy, I wasn't the first one out today. So.
I know, that would have been Orla too. What kept you?
Yes,
you know, if you're not there to pick her up straight from dancing, it's like, where are you? She's phoning you, like, geez, so funny.
As if it wasn't guilt loaded enough, you know, this mother gig, we wouldn't change it for the world, but yeah.
Now, just before we finished, I know you're down there in County Wicklow. I was saying Lynn Dalton, Joe's wife, put a lovely thing this morning to say, amazing that you were going to be on. And I said, I can't wait now. I have two users living near each other. So I have like the Daltons and the Mahers to come and visit. So can't wait. So before you go, where can people get in touch with you, Jen?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook, BeGeal Coaching. They can find me on Instagram, quite active over there. They can find me on LinkedIn as Jennifer Maher. And then my website, my website is getting a bit of a makeover now in the coming weeks. But the gist of the main packages that I offer are up there, begealcoaching.ie. And I have a new session for anybody that's dreading returning to the office in the coming weeks, you know, where they have to kind of get used to maybe a bit of structure, a bit of more human interaction, and they might be feeling a little bit anxious about it. So it's called a Be Energized session, and if they book it before the end of June, I'll also throw in a CV tips bonus as well. So that'll really kind of get their CV and really getting it up straight and getting it slick. Yeah. So there's more details on Instagram and Facebook about that. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, Camille, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
I can't wait till we're meeting up again soon. And if anybody get in touch with Jennifer, I'm on positiveparties.com, you know that. I also have the Positive People community. Come over to it. We're going to be doing exciting things now. I'm going to have Joyful June, so there's going to be some lovely stuff going on over there in the Positive People community. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you know anybody out there that would like to become a Positive Parties licensee wherever you are in the world, let us know, because it's time to get out there again, isn't it, Jen?
Absolutely. We need to raise the vibe.
We need to raise the vibes, and we need to get people in the room. And as much as Zoom and all that, it's good crack, and it's we need to be in the room again with people and feel the energy.
And people are coming out of, you know, really, you know, it's been a different storm, you know, everybody's been in a different boat, but everybody's been in the same storm, and it's affected everybody in such a diverse way as well. So, you know, I think anything that's going to positively impact and help lift people up at this point in history, I think can only be an amazing thing, Denise, especially the work you're doing. It's fab.
Oh, sorry, we're having a feedback there. I don't know what's happened. I'm going to head off now. Wave bye-bye to everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Denise. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.